We'll just break out of that story there with Phil Williams because the Attorney-General Nicola Roxon has begun the media conference in Townsville.
Title Act. All these proposals have been worked on for some years, and I think people are now ready for action. And I look forward to working with the Indigenous groups and other stakeholders to further that discussion and to see how we can promptly get this legislation into the Parliament and passed. But I think Jenny and I are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
In terms of some of the proposals that you've suggested, Indigenous leaders have said that they're happy for them to have been announced, but that they would have liked to have seen some more bolder moves. You're mentioning in your speech incremental change and how that's lasting, but they were saying you've had 20 years and 20 years of experts and people who are experienced in this, so surely some of these moves could be a bit bolder.
Well, obviously people are entitled to their views, and it doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, it's appropriate that people are also looking, when we reflect on the past 20 years, about what we might achieve in the next 20 years. But these are the announcements that we're making for today. These are the plans that we intend to legislate and marshal through the Parliament, and we're happy to continue discussions into the future on other issues, but these ones will make a significant difference. They have been supported in the group in the past and called for by Indigenous groups and others, and I'm very pleased that we were able to announce that we intend to take those steps.
We have also announced today that we will have a review of the native title representative bodies, and this is also a very important time to have this review. We have many native title determinations. What we all want, Indigenous leaders, the Attorney and I, we want to see that Indigenous people get the economic and social benefits that come from those native title determinations, and make sure that the native title representative bodies are able to continue the support for the traditional owners forward into the future and deliver those benefits.
There's a strong push in reversing the burden of proof. Why is government reluctant to take this step, this option?
Well, obviously this is something that some groups have been calling for. Others, of course, have expressed concern that the detailed work has not been done to see what other consequences there might be from reversing the onus of proof. It would be a big change, and it is a very complex legal area. We're happy to keep having discussions into the future, but we're clear that these particular changes that we've announced to the Act will deliver benefits. They are broadly supported. They have been consulted on, but the detail of and terms of the legislation will still need to be consulted on further. But we're ready to act now. We're keen to do that. And of course, discussions about other changes in the future, they can continue.
One of the big that's been raised is the length of the native title process and how long it's taking to go through the courts, and the concern that a lot of elders aren't living to see these decisions coming down. Also, too, that they are the best evidence givers as well in these cases, and they're not making it all the way through. I guess the reforms that you've announced are looking at speeding that up, but perhaps not enough for the hundreds of claims that are already before the courts as we speak.
Well, this is a sad truth in native title matters that take a long period of time, and is obviously why we are trying to do all we can to speed up that process. And it's why, since we've been in government, we've taken other steps that have already delivered, a doubling of the number of determinations in 1 year from the year previously. Those changes are really having an impact. But there are some processes that are very lengthy, and that is a tragic reality that communities will change over that time. We've got to do all we can to speed up that process. There isn't in native title a magic wand that would allow us to instantaneously make a determination tomorrow so that every person alive today would get recognition or a decision one way or the other in the next week. That just isn't something that can be done, even if many people, including us, would like it to be possible.
Is 40 years then an acceptable length of time?
Well, of course, many claims have been settled in the last couple of years. We've been in government since 2007. We've taken a lot of dramatic steps to speed up that process, and we're going to continue to take those steps, as you've heard us announce today. I hope that's not the period of time that people will wait, but there are new claims that have been made within the last 20 years. There'll be new and different claims probably into the future. Some of them are being settled quickly, some of them are being reached by by agreement, and that's why we're determined to strengthen those agreement processes. It's not in anyone's interest for the process to take 40 years, as your question indicated, and we're doing all we can to speed it up.
Do you think there will be support for the measures you've proposed across Parliament and across parties?
Well, unfortunately, we haven't seen any particular enthusiasm from the Liberal Party on these issues at all. We have had some preliminary consultations with the independents. I do believe that this will have sufficient support to be able to pass the Parliament, but ultimately that is a matter for each member of Parliament when the legislation is drafted and they're able to be properly and fully consulted on it. Of course, we'd call on the opposition to reverse their general position when it comes to native title and look at these amendments, and they would have to, I think, if they looked at them fairly, consider that this was a good change for all involved. You have, respondent groups saying that these sorts of changes will be of benefit because they also want determinations to be made. So maybe it'll be even an easier and speedier passage, but to date we haven't seen any enthusiastic support from the Liberal Party.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Did you forget to acknowledge the North Queensland Land Council, or did you?
Well, I did acknowledge the North Queensland Land Council, in fact thanked them for being co-hosts. I didn't acknowledge the particular chair. I've apologised to him for that. There was a long list of acknowledgements, and sometimes you make these mistakes. Obviously he took offence, which was absolutely not intended, and unfortunately once that is done, all you can do is apologise, which I have done.
And he accepted your apology? Or?
Well, you'll have to ask him, but obviously the North Queensland Land Council is one of the co-hosts here. I did recognise them as such. They've put an awful amount of work into making sure this conference is successful, and I understand that he might have been distressed to not be properly acknowledged, and I should have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was the Attorney-General Nicola Roxon and the Indigenous Affairs Minister Jenny Macklin live from Townsville in North Queensland after that significant announcement this morning about proposed changes to the Native Title Act. There'll be no changes in relation to onus of proof lying with Indigenous claimants, but payments will be tax-free. The definition of good faith will be legislated to speed up settlements, and there'll be extra opportunities for access because stakeholders are going to be asked to set aside issues of historical extinguishment.